The moment is here, you can stop your search. It's Comics by Perch.
Hey everybody, this is Perch. I've mentioned in the past, comics presents itself often as a band of brothers, as strong camaraderie, as people who are trying to get together and really kind of, it is a brotherhood and sisterhood or whatever. It's a personhood. It's a them. It's a theyhood. I don't even know. Anyway, I mention this because there is this narrative that goes on that part of the reason why they want to ban or block certain people or call up companies to prevent them from working is because we can't disrupt that camaraderie. We need to have people who, truly look out for each other, care for each other. And if that was actually true, then I probably would be for it. I mean, if it was truly hey, we all stand together, we all fall together kind of mentality, a true kind of Marine Band of Brothers kind of mode, then I'd have a lot of respect for that. The challenge is, it's not that way. That is what gets said, but it is an industry that is quick to turn on people. It's an industry that's quick to blame people. Look, right now, for the people out there in Twitter land or, in Facebook or wherever, we're like, oh, Perch is one of the bad guys. He's adjacent. But, pull out the take that is truly harmful. I defy you. You can't do it. Because it doesn't exist. There has not been any gatekeeping. To the contrary, while a large number of people ignore various creators, I've interviewed them. I've had them on the show. It is mildly painful. Of course, it's not about me, but it's not. It is painful to see people who absolutely and utterly ignored Rachel Pollack for years, would not give Rachel work, wouldn't put her stuff in print, all the rest. And like we've talked about before, suddenly, when she passes away, and we interviewed her on this channel, when others would not, bluntly, when others wouldn't give her the time of day. And then suddenly she passes away and the articles are written like, oh, trans icon. That the story is about trans icons, not about her great work. There were some great articles written. I'm not painting everybody with that same brush, but it bothers me. And it especially bothers me when we hear all this stuff about this is a brotherhood, a sisterhood, a band of brothers, whatever it is. It's a community where people try and help and get along. And yet there is a lot of backstabbing and there's a lot of just, ignoring people. And I think I've said this before, but it bears mentioning again. So credit where credit is due. Okay, I know there's been so much commentary about Mark Waid over the years, but I will tell you, when a couple of us were trying to chase down people to get, Rachel a comp of her book before she died, Mark Waid was one of the people who tried to help out. And I will always remember and always thank him for that. And I would like to see that behavior, that truly kind of help out mode, multiply across creators and comics. I'm not trying to change your mind or tilt you one way or another, positive or negative, about any one person. I'm just saying that it needs to be what it needs to be what people claim it is. But this is not a new problem. And so this viewer writes in and is touching us, says, hey, Perch, you mentioned before how backstabbing in the comic industry has been essential to gain success. And that made me curious about the controversies that have been started by Jack Kirby, and to this day haven't died. By the way, I don't think they're essential. I think they're embedded within it. I don't think you need to stab anybody in the back to get ahead. I think there are some really solid, good people out there. We've interviewed several of them. I haven't interviewed several. There's plenty of good people out there who just do their thing, and they don't play those games, and they do just fine. So it's not a critical, but it is very much part of the inner comics culture. There is that level of backstabbing and jealousy that exists with some. And often they are the people who are the loudest. It's a couple of the people who are absolutely the people who carry a torch. Back in 2018, Perch wrote something on Twitter and included the hashtag Comicsgate. That means he's Comicsgate. Never mind the fact that the thread that they're quoting is one that where I was refuting the idea of overships. So arguing with comics. But sure, I use the tag. So therefore, anyway, this is nonsense. But the people who go to bat, like, that's why we have to stand our guard to get people like that out, are the exact same people that shit talk their, even friends will tell people, oh, that person's writing is dog shit. It happens a lot. Just saying. I will tell you, if the fastest way to implode the entire comics industry is if Elon Musk suddenly put all the DMs public. Just you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna just make it all public. There would be a explosion like you've never seen before in your life, in many places, but certainly within comics, because the amount of quote unquote friends who backstab each other in DMs is amazing. Anyway, let's finish the mail. It says Jack has accused a lot of people, mainly Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, of stealing a lot of his ideas, mainly Silver Surfer and Spider-Man, which is something I can't recall anybody else from the Gold and the Silver Age writers doing. Never heard about Stan accusing Ditko of stealing Doctor Strange, Ditko accusing Stan of stealing Spider-Man, etc. There's a little bit of noise about Spider-Man. I mean, it's happened. Sure. Let's see. Let's conclude the mail. It says, interested to hear your thoughts, and God help you with the handling of that effed up comment section of yours. Yeah, thanks. The comment section is fine. I mean, people can do what they want. I don't have the ego about people crapping on me or any of that in the comment section. It's fine. I will say, 99 days out of 100, it doesn't bother me. It's not that I have a thick skin. It's that half the time it's people pranking, and I don't really care. It's okay. The held for review comments, the ones that YouTube decides to put in comment jail, some of those are absurd. That's the stuff where people go after my daughter, say, insanely racist shit. That's the domain to whence no one ever should go, as far as I'm concerned. So 99 days off 105. There is that one day where I wake up and I'm like, I am not in the mood to hear people shit on my channel today. I'm not in the mood, for people to make the 500th joke about how much the channel sucks. And those days I don't look at the comment section because I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to snap and I'm just going to block a bunch of people who are just trying to have a good time. And, but that, so I try and take care. I'm like a really bad mood, I don't want to be crapped on today. And then, you just don't look. But sorry. So back to the mail. It happened with other places. I mean, certainly look at the Bill Finger and some of the other stuff. I mean, you've had these cases where one creator gets more of the credit for the character. And usually it's the creator that is a little bit more, extroverted, a little bit more outspoken, a little bit more savvy at marketing. Those are the creators that tend to do well over time. But as we know, in the artistic field, you have a lot of introverts. You have people who tend to just put their heads down, get the work done, who maybe aren't as socially adept. And those people tend to lose out. Now, this isn't unique to comics. This is kind of everywhere. It's why, they teach you, or they try and teach you in college. You gotta go out and promote yourself. You gotta make sure that you look out for number one, you. So that kind of behavior has happened a lot, and in many cases, it's not always people getting backstabbing somebody. I think we listened to Glenn Greenwald. If you look at those interviews, and they're great because he talks about being an editor. He talks about kind of the work that he's done. And sorry, not Glenn Greenwald. What am I saying? Jesus Christ, I'm tired. It's been a long day. It's Glenn Greenberg. I'm not interviewing Glenwald. That'd be a very different interview. Glenn Greenberg. Sorry, Glenn. I apologize. Glenn's done his homework and done a lot of research on Stan Lee. And Glenn asserts, and I think that is correct, that by and large, Stan Lee was not sitting there kind of intentionally backstabbing Jack Kirby. Stan was being Stan, which means he was a promoter. He was, he went where he naturally went. And if you confront it, like Stan Lee would be kind of baffled and hurt. And he was, from all accounts and purposes, baffled and hurt at some of Jack Kirby's comments. So I there's that factor in all this too, but there's definitely is backstabbing, and it's existed. People steal an idea or something gets popular. What you do notice in industries though is, interestingly enough, the smaller something gets, the more backstabbing generally occurs. And there's a couple reasons for this. When it's bigger, people tend to, it's harder to kind of hide who did things. It's harder to take credit for someone else's work when something is really big. When it's really big, there's a lot of exposure. A lot of people are seeing information in real time. It's harder to take credit for somebody else's work and to rip somebody off when business is great. And generally, when business is great, there's more the desire to try and create, 1 + 1 = 3 type scenarios where it's like, let's go bigger, let's do more. That's where people's heads are at when things are going well. But when things start to stumble and they're doing poor, and it's kind of the big fish in a small pond, mentality, when the pond shrinks, then suddenly kind of the behavior changes, and people do tend to get a lot more vicious about who's getting on what project, who's doing what work. Joel Jones is an interesting example of somebody who, there were several other creators who went completely full on knives out on Jones when that whole tracing allegation came out. And it certainly looked like she did, but when there's that whole kind of tracing model, I know there are some people who went at her aggressively. Now, why did they do that? Well, bluntly, because they wanted her books. They wanted her work. It was as simple as that. They wanted the job. They wanted the money. They viewed it as a small pond, and the only way to survive is to throw other people out of that pond. So I think that there's kind of two forms of this kind of backstabbing, taking credit for other people's work. There's kind of the more innocent kind where people are just being who they are. It doesn't make it right, but it does change it, whether it's intentional or not. And I think Stan Lee largely falls into that category. If you look at Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, radically different personalities in terms of kind of what, introvert versus extrovert, just all that kind of stuff. Neither man, people may have a favorite of those two, but neither man is a bad man. That was their nature. And unfortunately, with that nature, certain, things happen. Please don't mistake me saying that, Jack Kirby getting ripped off was his own fault. It wasn't. It's just, there's a big difference between somebody who just, always puts themselves out there taking credit for something versus someone who manipulates behind the scenes to actually stab someone in the back. And I view those two things as pretty different. Just in how they, how people interact with them, what they do. I view them as different things. So there you go. That's my answer. I hope that was satisfactory. Leave your comments below. Crap on the channel some. Why not? You want to. And I don't know. It's kind of like Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. I think some of the people who regularly crap on the channel don't. They hear me taking a good joke, and usually I do, but every now and then it jerks. Yeah. Thanks for listening.